Welcome to CMAC 207, a place where prisoners can be heard and help build more compassion for those that are reformed while incarcerated. Some of the stories, thoughts, and opinions may not be suitable for sensitive listeners. Listener discretion is advised. As always, thank you for engaging.
Hello, this is a free call from an incarcerated individual at Fremont Correctional Facility. This call is subject to recording and monitoring. To accept this free call, press 1. To refuse this free call, press thank you for using Securus. You may start the conversation now.
Joey Bear, welcome to our show. Today we are going to discuss education within correctional facilities, which I did a quick Google search because I knew that they didn't have education for super long, but apparently for hundreds of years, if you wanted to study in a prison, you were able to study the Bible, and that was it. There was nothing to help you get a degree or anything further than that. That is more recent in modern times, and they have done studies that people that get an education within prison actually have a lower rate of committing a crime again and going back to prison. So, and it's more than 40% lower. So it's a big percentage, and education is proving to be very important to the people that are incarcerated. However, you have more experience with it because with your life sentence, you were not eligible to get a higher education, and then magically you were because they changed the policy. So why don't you talk about what it was like to not have access to education and what it's like now that you do?
Well, first off, let's take a shout out to Donald Trump for bringing back the prison Pell program. I know a lot of people don't agree with prisoners being able to go to college and everything, but there's true value there. So with education in the Department of Corrections, I find that the majority of times, for many years, I've been a tutor teaching GED or even college, even though I myself don't have a college degree. And it seems to be that education tends to be something that few people reach out to try to grasp. And very few people will come to prison and think, all right, well, maybe I can better myself and become this or that or this or that. And whether it's with drug, alcohol treatment programs or anything, because the environment itself is kind of established to beat you down and to make you feel like you are just a burden and you can't be an attribute to society, you can't change your ways and everything. It's not about rehabilitation nowadays in our modern prison systems. It's about just simply warehousing and belittling and controlling. And so most people, even if they don't have a high school diploma, they get enrolled in school and they don't put effort in it because they don't see the value within themselves and everything. And as a tutor for many, many years in prison and teaching the basic education for people, it always became, it was something that I grasped onto because I was not allowed to participate in these programs myself, being a life inmate. And so I would get pleasure by seeing other individuals, graduate and attain a degree, high school GED or anything, and actually see that value that they can see within themselves that they didn't see within themselves 2 or 3 years prior. And so over the years, education became something that was just orchestrated for those people that would be getting out in the immediate future. And my best way to accomplish my own education, because I see the value in myself, I see what I can give to society, I see what I can even give to the social atmosphere inside of prisons itself. And being excluded from all these education programs and trade schools and things like that, I had to come about a way to determine how do I acquire that education myself. And what I would do is I would fill out job applications as a tutor, and then I would get enrolled in custodial maintenance, or I would get enrolled in paint drywall, or I would get enrolled in electrical schools as a tutor, and then eventually I would just take the class on my spare time. And even then, at one of the facilities I was incarcerated with, even though I did the whole completement program and was CCR approved and everything like that and validated, I was still unable to get that degree from the Department of Corrections because they said that like inmates are excluded from these things. but I had done it myself and I had registration, so I was good enough. But then eventually the next year came by and I explained the situation, and I was granted that degree and trade school qualification. And so for many years, it's a matter of just trying to better yourself in hopes that you get that chance outside of walls and you can become an attribute to society. But for those people that are going home immediately, it's for, to be better husband, better father, better provider for even your mother or whoever you may be taking care of, and even yourself. And to see that value within is very important. And the Department of Corrections don't seem to orchestrate and point it into rehabilitating yourself and showing you that value that you are worth something. And so eventually, the great thing about the state of Colorado was that Donald Trump brought back that Pell Grant. And although I'm certified in many trade schools and everything like that, I did not have a college degree. And with the Pell Grant, I was able, as long as I maintain, my average is 4.0, even higher than 4.0. I'm extremely excelling in school, and I'm almost there at my degree.
And you were Mr. I don't know if I belong there. I feel like that was the conversation that we were having right before you started, because you are incarcerated, you're older, you're not, a 19-year-old kid going to college for the first time, and you had a little bit of imposter syndrome, like you didn't belong in college, and I told you you're just as smart as I am, you just haven't taken any college classes, and that you do just fine. So
well, that in and of itself, that part that I was speaking about, where we all tend to lose self-value, I was questioning myself, am I worth even trying to get a college degree? Most people don't see it in me. Most people don't care. I didn't care for a while, and you care, and other people that I know care, and everything like that, which gave me that strength to believe in myself and just power through it and keep going, and even to the point that hopefully one day I have a doctorate degree. But to get accepted into that college situation is very extremely rare. You have a rare opportunity. For many years in Colorado, they said no to lifers completely. And then 2 years ago, I had my application and my essay and everything written in for several years saying, all right, well, if that opportunity comes up, will you please inform me? Here's all this stuff, keep it on file. And that way I have that opportunity because I'm eager. And then it was the day before the final enrollment, and there were qualifications that had to be met and everything, when a buddy of mine said, hey, lifers are eligible now because of the Pell Grant. They can't exclude lifers from the Pell Grant. And I was excited, and I ran down to the lady that was doing the school, and I told her, the instructor, that, hey, this is everything that's on file. I'm eligible. Let's get me in this. And she already knew me from around the compound. She's like, absolutely, you deserve this. And I had to go to my employer and get a recommendation from them and things like that. And now, to this date, I feel a lot smarter, a lot stronger, a lot capable of doing things, and a lot. And in my case, my degree is going to be in sociology. And so I can understand the workings of frustrations and behaviors and things like that, and it helps me get better to just being a better person in general. And given that opportunity, if I ever get free, that's just another notch on my belt of how I can succeed in society, knowing that it's going to be hard and complicated as an ex-con. But if I can do everything in here and find ways to get into school and get these trade schools and things like that, even against all odds and being told no, and I just keep trying until eventually I acquire them, I've got to think that society may actually be a little easier than being a life sentence inmate trying to get an education that they're going to restrict to somebody that goes home in 2 years.
Well, and I feel like, I can relate to a lot that you said because, like, for my experience, I was a high school dropout. I dropped out when I was 15. And it wasn't because I wasn't smart. I just didn't fit into traditional schooling. Like, I really struggled with, and I wouldn't be diagnosed with ADHD until about a decade and a half later. So they really didn't know that the struggle that I had with sitting still and taking in information was because, I had a learning disability. But I ended up dropping out, and I went to night school, which was essentially show up, do a little bit of work, just enough to meet the Maine state requirements, and then leave. I had it all done within like a month, my teachers knew I was very clever, and I had an English teacher that was like, no, 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 no. Just because you wrote your 5 essays that you needed to do, you are now going to tutor everybody else. And I had a teacher there that nominated me to get a grant, a scholarship to go to the community college. And I won that for being the student that struggled the most and managed to succeed. So, like, I was the student that pulled...
Sounds like prison. People struggle the most.
I pulled the biggest turnaround. They didn't think I was going to be able to do it. Right. So, but I didn't think I was supposed to go to college. I grew up in a lower economic status. Neither of my parents had gone to college. They didn't really see the value in it. They felt that you could go out and work your way up in a trade, and that was the way to do it and handle your money appropriately. I think people with higher education was kind of looked down upon in my family as people that like thought that they were better than everybody else. And I can remember I worked this one summer with a girl. We were waitressing together, and her name was Kimmy, and she was studying.
Shout out, Kimmy.
Shout out to Kimmy. She was learning to be a lawyer, and both of her families were lawyers. And I remember telling her, like, people like me don't go to college. And she was like, that is absolutely not true. She's like, college is for everybody, and you're very smart, and I really encourage that you go. And I never forgot that conversation, and I enrolled the next year to go to college. So I was 19, almost 20 when I started college, and also felt that imposter syndrome of like, I don't belong here because I'm not a good student. Like, I'm not smart enough to be here. And really struggled because I didn't have a formal background in traditional schooling. And having all of my professors be like, you're incredibly bright. Like, don't let this grade discourage you. You know, you just need a little extra help. Or what you had to say was very powerful. It was just grammar that we had to kind of like grade you on. And I was able to get my associate's degree, and that was really life-changing for me to have that validation of like, yes, I am smart. I was smart enough to get a degree, and that even people that grow up in poverty or poor or broken homes or whatever they're coming from can obtain a degree, that college is for everybody. And one of the things that I feel about college is and education in general, and why I think it's so important for incarcerated people or people coming out of poverty, is that it's the one thing that can't be taken from you. And, you know, with your story, you've lost a lot. You've lost your freedom, and there's been a long, just years and years and years of losing your humanity and your dignity as you go along with your incarceration. But your education was one thing you can obtain that they can't take from you. Okay, Joey, take it away, because I just that's all I got right now.
What is the one thing? All right, so they cannot take away dignity from you, or your college from you, your education, everything. But what is the one thing that you really see that college provides value for you?
I think you really pegged it when you said that it helped me see my worth and my own value. You know, it was something, it's challenging to do all that studying and to pass your classes. And when you don't feel like you belong there and you still succeed, I think it is something that builds up some confidence within yourself. And I think that's really what that first degree for me did. I think the second one, when I got my bachelor's, for me, it was an ends to a means. Like, I needed to get that second degree so I could get a job to pay off my loans. And I didn't think much of it. I think the most meaningful degree I got was the first one. And even with looking back to going back to school now, you know, another degree doesn't hold the same meaning as that first degree did. It's just a way for me to get a better paying job. I think for me, the most meaningful degree I got was my associate's. I feel like I proved to myself that I can do challenging things and that I am worthy of a better education and working towards a better life other than, being in a lower economic status. And it it did mean a lot to me, and it really helped me kind of see myself in a different light. Your turn, Joey.
All right. So for me, what I've gained from college so far is the sense that I have a voice, and I think that all of us do that when we decide our futures and everything. This is our way of saying this is our voice. This is who we are. This is what we're going to do, and we stick with it, and so we become something not only to ourselves but to the world. We contribute, and my voice says that maybe I'll be a writer. Or maybe I'll tell about those things that are psychologically destructive to people in prison. For example, there are just thousands of horror stories that from a TV perspective or something like that, individuals would see that person incarcerated as the villain. They would not understand in a situation like, I have a friend named cut the warden's throat in the middle of a chow hall back in 1996, right in front of me. Did this not because he had psychological problems or anything, and of course he does have psychological problems to this day, but Dennis Webb, and the day that she died, got the permission to go to her funeral, and when he went to that chow hall that day that they was supposed to be allowed to go to the funeral, that he paid the money for and everything, for the transportation for the correctional officers and everything, I watched him as he walked up to this ward, and he said, Mr. Am I not gone from my mother's funeral? And when am I going? And the warden right there and then turned and said, the only place you're going is back to your cell. And my heart broke for this guy because his mother just died. He paid for everything. He thought he would at least give that last chance to say goodbye. And so he calmly told the warden, he's like, yes, all right, I'll go back to the cell. He went back to the cell. But 5 minutes later, while I'm still eating, he walked right back to that chow hall, grabbed that assistant warden by his head from the back and slid him from ear to ear. And I was just so awed, and I was like, oh, this is crazy. But is the brutality of it all. There's got to be a better way for communications in the Department of Corrections. And there's got to be a way to get out there into that society, those things that happen every day in this world that make these individuals not better people, but worse people. And education is definitely one of those things where I can have a voice and I can say something, or say, even in Dennis's case, maybe if he would have received the education, he would have been spurred to think logically and not be so rational and do something that, yes, of course he is a villain. You're not supposed to cut somebody's throat right in the middle of the chow hall. But maybe he would have found a better way in treatment in prison, would have been orchestrated on educating or substance abuse. I don't know if he was under substance, or even psychological treatment. Psychological treatment was one of those things that I've asked time and time again these psychologists throughout the Department of Corrections these last 30 years. Why are you not helping these individuals? Why are you just simply placating them with medications that will deter them from doing things and everything like that? And then that was their exact reply. They told me that it's not about treating, it's not about making these individuals better, and it sometimes it breaks their hearts. It's about simply placating them so that they're not a disciplinary problem for the Department of Corrections.
Right, it's behavior control. It's not about rehabilitation. And you brought this up where, our prison system is based off of punishment. It's not based off of rehabilitation. And the first country to really pilot a rehabilitation model was Sweden. And they've seen a much lower rate in people that are returning to their prisons. They work very hard to get their addicts cleaned up and ready to go. They give tax breaks for people that want to employ felons. Like, they do a lot of things to reintegrate these people back into society, and one of them is educating them so they can get out and get working.
Because once you educate an individual, and once you show them that there's logic and there's things that he can do and that there's value in his life, even incarcerated behind these walls, if I never get out, there's still a lot of value in my life. I've learned so many trades, and I'm useful every day to where I can go to work or do these other things and never have to sit in that cell and let those things deteriorate maybe my psyche or whatever. I'm a much better man and a much better individual that can contribute contribute not only to society, but
You have 1 minute left.
and so if we help these people and we educate these people, everybody incarcerated, then there's value, and those that are getting out become productive members of society instead of addicts come right back to prison. And so I'm 100% on board with educating everybody that's willing to go and get an education. The sad thing about the Department of Corrections in this state specifically is that they deter people from trying to better themselves and acquire education. They tell you that, all right, you have to be a year charge-free before you're even eligible to try to get in these classes. And I think it should be vice versa. I think they should say, all right, if you get in these classes, like the work situation is, all right, they're about to hang up, so I'll just call you right back.
Okay. We will hang.
The caller has hung up. Hello, this is a free call from...
So we have these, thank you. So we have these individuals that don't believe within themselves, and they might be addicts, they might be gang members, they might be just people that are suicidal, or willing to take, what was the politically correct word to use, unlike themselves, that are willing to unlike themselves. And we have all these people that have these problems. And I think education is been the opportunity and saying, all right, you need, make it a requirement. You need to attain college, you need to do this, you need to do that for initially. And instead of saying, you're charge-free and then we'll let you in this class, these individuals don't want that class anyway because they don't see the value in themselves. Let's say we enroll them in the class, make them attend it, and then you spark up value within themselves. And they see education and they see their self-worth increase and everything like that. And they say, all right, well, I've got school, I need to do my homework instead of staying up late doing drugs, whatever they may be throughout the night. They see real value, and that's where our change begins. When we start saying, all right, we're going to incorporate this and we're going to help you instead of just let you be inebriated and sit around doing nothing all day. It's very important. And I would love to see many Department of Corrections switch that path. Virginia did it at one point. Virginia said, all right, you can't just sit around. If you don't have a GD, you cannot just sit around. You have to go to school. And if you don't, then it reflects your good time and it reflects those things. And there's punitive measures for that. And why not make that a requirement, not a privilege, but a requirement? Why not say you have to attend?
And the science is there to prove that people that get educated are less likely to commit crimes. They do better finding jobs. And, one of the hardest parts for people getting out of prison is that reentry of trying to find a job where they can support themselves. I mean, we go to like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If you can't get that bottom of the pyramid where you have shelter, food, a job, some income, you're not going to fare very well. And so, being able to get a job and a place to live and restart is very, very important when somebody is trying to re-enter society and not be a problem for society, is trying to be somebody that is productive within society.
All right, so they've called me to chow, then I have to go to school and get my education.
Okay.
So if we want, we'll continue this tomorrow. We'll make this a two-part. But for all those that are listening, I encourage you, even if you've got loved ones incarcerated, encourage them to get an education. It matters.
It does matter. All right, Joey Bear.
Right.
Thank you for your input, and I'm going to wrap this up, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Bye.
Bye. All right, so we want to thank everyone that was listening today, and Joey is off. He is off to go study and eat, and will be right at it until late tonight. So we're going to wrap up for today, and